On Thursday, President Obama moved to dissolve a post-9/11 program to track Muslims, as President-elect Trump doubled down on his plans to ban and create a Muslim registry after a spate of terror attacks in Europe.
I want you to rethink or reevaluate your plans to create a Muslim registry or ban Muslim immigration in the United States.
Hey, you know my plans all along, and I've been proven to be right.
The move comes after grassroots groups for years had pressured Obama to scrap the National Security Entry-Exit Registration System, or NSEERS. Some 83,000 people from countries deemed high risk, mostly Muslim, were required to undergo interrogations and fingerprinting on entering the United States.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! NSEERS has got to go! Hey, hey!
Some non-citizen male U.S. residents over the age of 16 from mostly Muslim-majority countries were required to register in person at government offices and periodically check in. Advocates say 13,000 were put into deportation proceedings. NSEERS was abandoned in 2011 after it was deemed redundant by the Department of Homeland Security and criticized by civil rights groups for unfairly targeting immigrants from Muslim-majority countries. To get a response to the news, we spoke to the ACLU of Massachusetts staff attorney, Adriana Lafay, and Darakshan Raja, coordinator of the Washington Peace Center. I started by asking them what they say to proponents like President-elect Trump that say such programs are necessary to keep Americans safe.
Well, what I think the history of this program itself demonstrated is that it was a program that created a mass of racial profiling and marginalized Arab and Muslim communities without actually bringing a single ascertainable benefit as far as counterterrorism.
Actually, in terms of being, quote unquote, a program to deal with national security issues, it was a total disaster and failure because it didn't do that at all. What it did do was definitely destroy many of our communities. It did result in many people being, again, put into deportation proceedings, and particularly for undocumented immigrant working class Muslim communities. There are parts of New York City in little pockets. I know I come from a community, the Bronx in particular, that just basically disappeared.
We also discussed the history of NSEERS.
The ACLU was opposed to this program from the beginning, as were many other groups, and there are many advocates who have been fighting against this program since 2002 and who really deserve the credit for what has happened today. The domestic registration program component of NSEERS continued for a year and 3 months, ending in late 2003. And then the entry-exit registration program, which applied to people at the moment that they entered and left the United States, that was discontinued in 2011, also because of public pressure. What we know is that the Office of the Inspector General itself, within Homeland Security, recognized that this program had not yielded positive results and that it was a program that was obsolete and should be terminated.
I asked what role public pressure played, including the delivery of over 300,000 signatures on December 12th to demand NSEERS be dismantled.
The story very much was that there was actually really no public pressure and there was no real public information on this program at all. I do think, though, now in particular with this election, with the kind of how upset people have been, that there is a different tone from the public that we are hearing that is against Muslim registries, that is against the kind of Islamophobia and targeting via the state. So I do think we are talking about a different moment, which I do think is also credited really in large to groups like the ACs Rising Up and Moving, Jump, grassroots groups who have member bases, who have been impacted, who've been on really the front lines.
Lastly, I asked if this will stop Trump's plan for a Muslim registry.
What we know is that we have to remain vigilant. After January 2017, when Trump becomes president, he won't be able to simply reactivate the NSEERS program. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that he could do that would be equally problematic. And so we certainly have to remain vigilant in continuing to stand up for our communities and ensuring that the rights of all people here are respected.
From an article that came out in the Washington Post yesterday, that Donald Trump did say that, he's going to move forward with the Muslim registry and he's going to move forward with these bans. And so I don't necessarily think that this is going to stop Donald Trump from expanding already the war on terror apparatus, or all of these registries, or all this mass surveillance, which we're really talking about, or criminal enforcement into immigrant and Muslim communities. I think what this really does do is that it shows the public, and particularly the power of the grassroots, that when we make some clear demands, we do have an opportunity to get those met. I also think that there are some coalitions that have been formed. There are new voices at the table. Again, directly impacted folks are leading this movement right now. And I think that that is what the positive lining to all of this has been.
NSEERS will officially be dissolved Friday morning. For The Real News, this is Jessel Noor.